Thank you for joining the Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 1 preview and a little bit of a Week 0 review. Robert, Week 0 is always a very bittersweet moment for me. Bitter in that I know I've placed my last horse racing bet for 2 months, but obviously sweet because the season is upon us. I like how Week 0 was laid out. You had a good cross-section. You started, 5 time zones away for people on the East Coast, and you ended west of the Pacific Coast.
Yeah, you kind of spanned half the globe there, I think. Yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, it was really good. I was excited for football to be back. It came back. The first game was interesting. It wasn't the greatest football game I've ever seen, but to be fair, though, it was raining a ton there. The ball was all slippery. But again, I was very happy with the outcome. We'll talk about it a little bit. And then, we end off there in Hawaii. A little sad that game ended at, I think, 11 o'clock Eastern time. That game 1,000% deserved to start at 9 o'clock based on the outcome. We'll talk about that later.
Yes,
that was the most after-dark game I've seen. That wasn't an after-dark game. But, I will say, though, that just 1,000-foot ESPN, really, there was 6 games. And one of them was between, an FBS team and an FCS team. And surprisingly, the FCS team almost won that game. But we got to put more games on here. Come on, really? We can't have now maybe they're trying to do this because of antitrust. They're trying to put in some FCS teams, and okay, I could get behind that. But we can have a couple more marquee matchups here. Some people I'm sure would gladly take an extra bye week if they played in that week 0. You can still leave Ireland alone, that's fine. They can still get their own window. But I think we could pad a couple extra bigger marquee games in there rather than just Kansas, Fresno. I think we could do a bit better than that. That's my take on that.
I know this will shock you. Who's to blame is NCAA. Once again, the idiots in charge.
Really?
It's them. Because you get Week 0, you can play Week 0 if you have a road game at Hawaii. That's how you get that exemption. Or if you're playing overseas, that's how you would get they had those games in Australia for a while. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, I don't know why they can't be more flexible. I got to say, with the limited deck, it kind of came out well in terms of a major conference game, a minor conference game. You had a good FBS, FCS game, much better than expected, and 2 good Power 5, G5. In one case using Power 4, G5, but in one case using Power 4 very generously, and we'll definitely hit on that in the case of the game that was in the islands. But it was a good cross-section. But to your point, it ended a bit too soon. Would have liked to see him stretched out a little bit at the tail end with only 5 games. They could have just give us more of a menu and rather just a buffet to walk through once. All right, where's my laser pointer here? There we go. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. Take a screen grab of this glossary. You will need it through this and other episodes. And as always, if you're returning to the podcast, you are, by definition, brilliant. All right, let's do our Week 0 review. We'll do them in chronological order here. I gotta say, I missed the first half of this game, which sounds like I lucked into a good situation here. Kansas State loses to Iowa State. Hey, look, I've been frank throughout all the conference previews. There's some numbers I just don't pay attention to, sometimes to my own detriment, like win-loss, because I'm more interested in power rankings that are my own and yours. I just missed that Kansas State was ranked 17th. I have an issue with this. When we did the Big 12 preview, we all, I think, were very fair to Kansas and say, I see a lot of mixed signals here. We all just said, I can't say this team is in or out, but they're not definitively or dispositively in based on what's coming into this season. I would love to know anyone that voted this team 20th or higher, what's the case there? And I'm sure you're going to get 2 things. Dylan Edwards, and they think Avery Johnson is a good quarterback because he has that beautiful flowing hair.
Yeah, stuff like that. I will say that Joel Klatt had them to win the Big 12, which is insanely aggressive. I don't you want to make the argument Iowa State should be ranked. I can see that argument. They did go to the Big 12 championship game last year. They got blown out, and they did win the Pop-Tart Bowl against half of Cam Ward. But they, Kansas State, and Kansas State, they played the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, far from the prestigious bowl, and they beat someone, I think. I think they won that game. I don't
I'm
even
not
remember.
your
You
guy
know
for
what?
both.
It doesn't even matter at this point. Like having them ranked 17th is a stretch. Having them favorites to win the conference. I get with some people with some shows, it's like I'm calling this team to win the conference. And we don't do that. We pick two teams for the conference championship game and we say, hey, there's value on this, there's value on this, there's value on this, this is a bad bet, don't make that bet. And some people will say, "Oh, pick the winners of the conference." It's for some of these conference, it's so variable. Like you can't even like Iowa State, like Arizona State won the conference. I think I got them 40-1 mid-season. Like like some of the stuff is insane. If you're projecting, like we really shouldn't be. What we do is fine, but you shouldn't be saying definitively. I think this team is going to win the Big 12 in August or July. Like that's insane. You can't do that. You can make bets on teams that you think are undervalued. That's fair. But saying definitively and mapping out a playoff bracket in August is insane. It's a whole new level of insanity on this. But other than that, no, I think this game was like an eye opener for both teams here. I think both teams weren't good. Now, again, as I mentioned before, very heavy rain. Both teams lost two fumbles. They both turned the ball over a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State, yeah, very questionable decision in terms of trying to go for it on a fourth down from their own 29-yard line. That doomed the game for them, but they did get it right back with an 80-yard touchdown bomb, which, as to your point there, it's inflating Kansas State's number when basically they just immediately rip off an 80-yard passing TD for Avery Johnson. But no, the game kind of went mostly as I expected. I thought Iowa State was the better team, and they were the better team, I think. I think it's very competitive. I think they're both equal. But, and as I say this, and we're going to say it this week, and I'm going to be saying it next week, if you have two teams and you think one was going to be better than the other and they both play at about the same level, it means they're both bad. It doesn't mean they're both good. It means they're both bad. And I think I think I have I have Iowa State over 7.5. I'm pretty happy about that. But I'm happy. I don't think I have anywhere Iowa State to win the Big 12. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I definitely don't have Kansas State to win the Big 12. So that's for sure. But this is the thing. I walked away from that game not particularly impressed with either of these teams.
Yeah, an interesting horse racing ish angle there, where like they say, if there's four horses that are right all together at the wire on a dirt race, you're not going to have four horses all running their best. It's probably a bad race, and bet against it next time out. The same angle here. I like that angle. I do want to point out that get my laser pointer here. I don't know how Kansas State lost this game. This is a significant difference in yards per play. That you're talking about probably I didn't run the numbers yet. That's probably at least an 80% win probability there that they lost. As far as you're over on Iowa State, this was clearly had to be a pivotal game for you and how you mapped out the schedule thing, yeah?
Yeah, that was a play. I thought Iowa State was a good team, and they clearly are. And this is a huge boost to that over 7.5 for sure. Massive win for that. But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of yards per play, which is traditionally what we look at, what gets fed into the model, Kansas State was a better team. Now, I'll put better in quotation marks because I didn't think either of these teams were particularly good. I think these are two middle-of-the-pack Big 12 teams, and they are both ranked. Okay, I guess they're ranked, so we're going to just go with this now. But again, it's a wider point that we have with just like, why are these teams ranked where they are? And it's just like Clemson is the next one that I'm sure we're going to talk about next week, where we're going to be like, why was Clemson ranked fourth? This is how the offseason works, right? You come in here and you're like, why was this team ranked this place? And this is Kansas State this week, and I think next week is going to be it's going to be one of either Clemson or LSU, but probably Clemson. No, my takeaway from this is that fade both of these teams down the stretch. That'd be my take on this. I don't think either of these two teams is particularly great.
Also, as you're reading off the indictment there, I will raise my hand and plead guilty because I did definitively say, and I have said it, I don't know, we did the podcast twice, so I've probably said it like 4 times now, Arizona State definitively is going to win the Big 12. You and I are different on that, though. You make a good point that this is a deep conference, too.
This helps Arizona State because before where I was like, oh, okay, these could be two elite teams near the top of the conference. But the thing is, seeing this is now just 2 less teams that Arizona State has to deal with. So.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Were you able to watch this UNLV versus Idaho State game?
No, because it was not on air in Canada. Apparently, they just assumed that no one in Canada would want to watch an FCS team, which made me very sad. And what station was this on?
It was on, I just got it, not YouTube TV, just YouTube. It was on a weird thing. Like, I was that morning. I was looking on Twitter. It said it's on Metro or something. I don't know what this is, and I don't know how to search YouTube TV for that. So I just went to YouTube,
yeah,
and somebody was streaming it.
Metro is a grocery store, so I don't.
Yeah, I think that the guy who was actually working the scorebug might have been at a grocery store. I'll just say that. He was struggling from time to time. Yeah, you missed a good game. This was shockingly competitive.
Yeah.
This, man, I'm under UNLV 8.5, and I almost got the whole thing just dumped in my lap last Saturday. I had this one at like 99% win probability for the Rebels. Their defense, boy, if you didn't watch this game, you might just want to kind of like skip through, just find it on YouTube and just skip through. Their defense was just horrible. This is a worst case thing because it wasn't like, okay, they got there but just couldn't wrap up, and Idaho State was just like grinding out a couple yards at the end of runs. They had guys just not even in the picture sometimes. And I bring that up as really a concern if you're a UNLV fan, because the defensive coordinator is a longtime NFL guy, and you've got a bunch of, I think it's more on defense too, you've got a lot of guys who were like former highly recruited guys that just didn't work out, and they all came to play for Mullen. And I could see very easily a situation where some of these guys, they're big, they're physically talented. I could see it just they don't get football at this level, and then you have a former NFL guy who's making things really complicated. Robert, there were just guys that were completely out of position. I don't even know if they're out of position because there's nobody there. There's just nobody there. Idaho State, 8.2 yards per carry? My gosh. Idaho State wasn't good last year. I think I read that they haven't made the FCS playoffs in 40 years.
Yeah, Idaho, people will confuse Idaho and Idaho State. Idaho State is not good. Idaho didn't make the playoffs last year, not Idaho State.
Yeah.
The spread was like, what, 20 and a half, I think.
Yeah, which
it was well into the double digits. Like,
yeah.
Clearly. Yeah, like 8.2 yards a carry. Okay, if an SEC team is playing a MAC team, okay. But this is an FCS team playing an FBS team. That should not be the case.
Yeah.
And then look, 308, 30 for 50 for 380. And here's the thing. You got four interceptions somehow. Some other guy threw another interception. You had 4 interceptions and you won by 7 against an FCS team.
Yeah.
Like, that's really concerning here. I got to rewatch some of these highlights. This is concerning. UNLV, I think, plays Sam Houston this weekend, right?
Oh, that's one of our games. Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Okay,
yeah.
we're going to talk about. Okay, I was wondering. Okay, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, but no, that's very concerning. And yeah, I like Dan Mullen, and maybe this is a rebuilding project. And see, this is now where you get to look at this, because this is another kind of one of the theories I have about this, is that if you have a team, and then I usually apply this to like players going to the NFL, and because you see them a bit in the preseason, and if like a player looks really good in the preseason, for example, Jackson Dart has looked really good in the preseason for New York, so that would mean that he was a big piece of Ole Miss last year, so that would pencil in Ole Miss regressing, and you can cut it both ways. In this case, if UNLV is considerably worse than they were last year, you could chalk a lot of it up to Barry Odom. You can maybe start betting up Purdue a little bit there. So now it's not perfect, but that seems to be the way this is blowing at this exact second. And yeah, this isn't it. Like, if this was another Mountain West team, I'd be like, sure, okay, but this is an FCS team. This is really concerning.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, a bad FCS team. This guy will go into the game, Jordan Cook. His career apex was 68 in the FCS, and he threw for 380 yards, 7.6 per attempt. I'll tell you this too. You just have to watch maybe just like one Idaho State series. Pick any of them because it's the same thing. Guys are just running around, just untouched. It's really concerning. We'll talk more about UNLV in part 2 when we're doing the Week 1 preview. Kansas State just does away pretty quickly here with Fresno State. My takeaway here is for the game, Jalen Daniels had a 151 apex. This, kind of like what you're talking about with the Jackson Dart and Barry Odom in the last one, I've got some serious angles and reverberations here. So I mentioned in the Big 12 preview that the new co-OC at Kansas, I even wore the shirt and I can't even say it. Come on, guys. At Kansas is Matt Lubick. Matt Lubick was the quarterback coach for Nevada last year. So there's like a 4-way thing to think about this. Obviously, I think that Matt Lubick is a great fit for Jalen Daniels. It's one game. We're not going to read too much into it, but that's a nice stat line that he had there. This is literally as good as he's been. Now, he wasn't really healthy last year, but Jesus, the 151 Apex against a G5 team, not a FCS team. Obviously, they've found a good guy here for Lubick in Kansas. He's well thought of. Next is the Nevada angle. Matt Lubick was the offensive coordinator last year at Nevada, so I'd be very concerned about how much of a step back. Getting him was a coup at Nevada, so I could see their offense taking a big step back without him. The third one, this is really interesting for me, is Brendan Lewis is the starting quarterback just named this week at Memphis. And I bring that up because he was the quarterback at Nevada last year under Matt Lubick. And if you look at his career, at his stats by career, he stunk before last year. And when we did the American preview, you might remember when I went over Seth Hennigan's Apex by year. His best year was his freshman year. And I can tell you, up front and close, having seen really bad coaching at USC, that is the ultimate sign of bad coaching, is that your players regress the more they're in your program. I don't trust Ryan Silverfield with a gifted quarterback, and I think that we have a flash in the pan quarterback that is going from really good offensive coordinator to super shaky. So, bullish factor, I guess I'd say, for Memphis. Last point on this is Wisconsin. I bring that up because their current OC is Jeff Grimes, who was the OC here last year at Kansas. Here, as I call you from Lawrence, Kansas. Not, but one of these instances where just walking away from a program, you've made your side of the ball better. I'm short whiskey this year. Boy, that's a horrible thing to say in my house, unless I'm long vodka. I'm under 5.5, and this just reinforces that. Jeff Grimes did not figure it out, and now he's going to have to figure out horrible Big Ten quarterback Billy Edwards. So good luck with that, Wisconsin.
Yeah, this is first things first. I will say that this spread was 14, never in question. Within the first quarter, you knew they were going to cover it easily.
Yeah.
I actually think they very clearly let up. I think they very clearly were like, let's not risk Jalen Daniels here. His name is so close to the quarterback from the NFL American Washington from LSU, Jalen Daniels. They're like, let's not risk him. 18 for 20, for 18, like 2 incomplete passes. Crazy. That's an insane stat line. And they're very clearly in the back half, we're just like, what are we doing here? Let's just draw out the clock. We won this game. It's all good. So this could have been even worse, actually. EJ Warner, again, we called this out. He's not particularly good. We said he's not good, and he is not good. 29 Apex there with 2 interceptions. But again, though, the thing is, he only plays on one side of the ball. He only plays on offense. It doesn't excuse the 31 points on the defense. So clearly, like, Kansas has definitely improved. They completely shut them down on defense. I have over Kansas wins somewhere, definitely, for sure. And I think I have Kansas to win the Big 12. So this is one where I was pretty bullish on Kansas originally. This is now confirmation. And as I'm sitting here on Thursday, Miami of Ohio at Wisconsin, 17-point underdogs. Here's the thing. It's like, maybe, I don't know. Miami of Ohio's going to take a step back this year, but Whiskey could be really bad. I don't know. Now, unfortunately, Memphis plays Chattanooga, so they don't play a game you can really bet on until week 2. But yeah, that's tempting. That's a little tempting. That line might be a little tempting. We'll see. But I think it was 17. You. I think it was 17 and a half. It's already down to 17. So there might be a couple people who are thinking the same thing as us. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I will just take a little bit of a issue with how you've ordered those words. Instead of saying EJ Warner is not particularly good, I'm going to say he's particularly not good, just to be more direct. Not my cup of tea. I don't know. Fresno's got a good coach, but I don't know. Bad quarterback situation for year 1 there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sure you were watching this game as it had to be televised up there. Good game here. I liked the debut from Maverick McIver, 126 Apex. I got to say that the Phil Longo offense was better than I had anticipated. A lot more functional. Maybe the Western Kentucky improved a lot on defense, but didn't expect 24 points and almost 400 yards. I gotta mention Western Kentucky's first and second punt returns. Did you happen to catch this?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
saw bits and pieces to this game, and I think towards the end of this game, I had to focus more on the. I focused more on the Stanford game, so we'll talk about that very soon now. But yeah, what happened with the punt returns?
And I had a whole season of this last year, just watching Zachariah Branch just make a mockery of every punt return. So I forget the kid's name. It was the same guy in both punt returns. His first punt return for Western Kentucky, he signals a fair catch, and there's nobody near him. Just annoying. Because again, Zachariah Branch did that all last season. So then I was just a little upset, and I actually had Western Kentucky here giving 10. So I got very fortunate here. Then the second punt return, the guy just, I don't know if he didn't see the ball, but he didn't get out of the way. He just kind of stood there. Didn't look like he was trying, and it bounced and bounced off him, and then just Sam Houston gets the ball in great shape. It's very frustrating, Robert, that these teams practice for a month before the first game. I'd say that there's probably punt and kickoff returns are probably where you have some of the deepest available talent to start for you at that position, right? It's not just, okay, I've got two quarterbacks, I have to choose one of them to start. I've probably got 6 or 7 athletes on the team that can return punts. And same for kick returns. I don't know how you have a month. And do you know the rules for the beginning of practice? Like they can't go, if they're in shells for 2 practices or something like that, not full on pads, and you're not in contact until like your 5th practice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So what can you work on? Stuff like just the basics of punt returns. Not actually like returning, but just like fielding punts, right? I don't know how you're a month in to practicing this, and you get a guy he doesn't understand. Okay, if I'm not going to catch it, get out of the way. He stands there like a statue. It's frustrating, and we will come back to this topic in quite soon, my friend, quite soon. And then Western Kentucky, it seemed clunky. It seemed really start and stoppish, and yet they still had 41 points. I don't know if that's a MacGyver and the new OC there, or if it's a Sam Houston defense thing. It might be both. For spinning their wheels a lot, they still got 41 points, which is pretty impressive.
yeah. I was on Western Kentucky. I had them minus. I think I got a 9.5, and then I also had them teased down to 3.5. With that was it was I think it was Iowa State plus 9.5, which like immediately in the game I'm like, oh okay, we're good. And then the Western Kentucky was not really much in doubt in that game too. Western Kentucky, yeah, their offense did feel a bit clunky. Like this, I thought we were going to go back to the older Western Kentucky offenses where they just score at will. And at 41 points, you can't really knock them that much for that. It was a touchdown a quarter. That's not. But again, it did feel a little clunky. And maybe that's Sam Houston State, right? Or Sam Houston, not Sam Houston State, Sam Houston. I think maybe we were a bit too bearish on the Bearcats punt. There we go. It's a great punt there. But no, I'm 100% open to being a bit more bullish on Sam Houston now. I think this was a lot more competitive than I thought it was going to be. They won and they covered the spread, but not by much. Sam Houston was in this game pretty late, and their defense kept them in this game, and their offense wasn't horrible either. So again, talking about UNLV, Sam Houston State, that's a bit of a tempting line there. I don't think Sam Houston State is going to be maybe as bad as we thought this year. I think they might actually be able to do some stuff. Maybe not win they're in the maybe not win Conference USA. I think Western Kentucky looked pretty good. I'm very happy with my Western Kentucky bets. But I think that Sam Houston might actually be a bit of an underrated team as what we thought it was at least.
Yeah, giving 9.5, you probably didn't appreciate this, but as somebody that was giving 10, how this game ended was huge for a person like me. I don't know if you caught the very end. Sam Houston came very close to getting a touchdown on the last play of regulation there, which would have. I know that you folks that got the better side of the number weren't worried about that, but yours truly was. But so got very lucky on that one. Also, I think got lucky in this one. Stanford at Hawaii. Robert, who fails the Don't Be Gavin Wimsatt test with flying colors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Belgium Branson. I just bring this up too. Hey, Giovanni McCoy was life and death to beat him out last season at Oregon State. Proceed with Temple at your own risk with Giovanni McCoy as your starting quarterback now that he's free from beating out a guy with a -10 apex in his season debut. The special teams thing, I'm going to go through the whole... you know what I just said about special teams in a month to figure it out? This guy, Emmett Kenny, did you see this? It led to
No,
Stanford's. Yeah.
this was early in the game, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes. Stanford scored a field goal, and then on the ensuing kickoff, they kick it. It's not down the middle. It's towards one of the sidelines, but not at the sideline. This kid just kind of goes brain dead. He's just not doing anything, and he signals for the fair catch like right as the ball's landing. And he stands there, and he says, "Well, I think I got to pick it up." And he picks it up, and he steps out of bounds at the 1 yard line. And the very next play is a Stanford scoop and score in the end zone. And again, I don't know how. Look, you can say, okay, it's early. How can you not just? You've got like in Hawaii, you've probably got like 8 guys that can return kicks, and you get a guy that doesn't understand the basics. Like, when do I have to signal fair catch, and when do I have to hold the ball? I want you to succeed, Timmy Chang, but my gosh, this is embarrassing.
There are some concerning signs here with Hawaii. What I said earlier, where if you have two teams and they play off against each other and you thought one was going to be better than the other and they both play to the same level, it means they're both bad. And I think that's 100% true here. This was rough, man. This was rough. Now,
Yep.
I did not bet Stanford I didn't bet Stanford outright or by the spread. I had teased Stanford up to 8.5. So basically the entire back half of the game, I'm like, okay, we're good here. But man, one Ben Branson, you're not helping the cause here. 50% completion rate, 3.6 an attempt, and an interception. And again, this is Hawaii. This is not, unless Hawaii's defense insanely improved from last season to this season, this is not a good defense. And this is the best you could do against a pretty rough defense. Remember, you're in the ACC, in quotation marks. You're an ACC team. This is a Mountain West team. What are we doing here? I expected, I didn't bet it, but I fully expected him to have a pretty good day here against Hawaii. And in reverse, I expected Hawaii to have a pretty good game against Stanford. And neither of those happened. We just got whatever this is. And the thing is, it's like that kick return, obviously a problem, but their winning kick was by a field goal kicker from Hawaii. And apparently the field goal kicker from Hawaii learned how to kick. He's from Japan. He's from Japan. He came to America basically because he saw a football game one time when he was on a trip to America, learned how to kick field goals from YouTube, somehow got to a D2 school, then somehow transferred to Hawaii, and now he's Hawaii's place kicker. And that's an insane story. Really cool. But why is that your kicker? That's your kicker? Like, you're an FBS school. Like, you can't be in this rough shape here. Like, I think both of these teams are in deep trouble here, especially Stanford. Like, this was probably among one of Stanford's easier games to win this year. Mm-hmm. And if the best you could have is a quarterback with a -10 apex against one of the worst defenses in all of college football, God, you're in trouble here. Like, what? Because I know the comparison you've always used when we talk about defensive rating of certain teams is, it's like this defense makes someone appear to be like Caleb Williams. We need to do the reverse of that. This quarterback makes people look like Georgia's defense. We need to have the reverse angle in there too. And that's a terrifying thought. It's like a -10 apex against a Mountain West defense. That's rough. I didn't think this was going to be a good year for Stanford, but this is a whole new low. This is where we are right now. 0-12 is possible, man. Frank Reich is just... And he made a couple of mistakes, too, in some of the play calls. There's a very questionable misuse of field goal, of timeouts at the end of the first half, at the end of the game. Again, people say that NFL coaches are bad at time management, and they are, but that didn't improve when we went back to college. Yeah, this could be this is one of their easier games. This is only going to get harder for Stanford as they go.
Yeah. Hawaii's defense, I don't think is... they're sneaky good for Mountain West, but that's several steps below what he's going to be facing in the ACC.
Yeah.
And just a -10 apex is just... there's no excuse for that. Just none. I'll also say the kicker, Kansei Matsuzawa is his name. Two interesting things. First, he actually said he was less nervous kicking the winning field goal than he was speaking in English in the post-game press conference, which is a good line. Also, a mere 33 minutes from my in-laws' place in Tokyo. My wife and I have enjoyed several walks in a park that is on a river across which Mr. Matsuzawa, where he went to high school, which is pretty cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's week 0. We're going to preview week 1 here. Now, I want to make sure everybody understands these are not dual model plays, okay? Very important to understand. Those will come out in week 5.
There is no model right now.
Yes, there is no model. Just for context, what I played last week was literally each one with 0.1 units, and that felt a little rich for my blood because this is basically me saying I think, I feel, not my model knows. So advisedly treat these as such. These are more just kind of like things to consider and talk about and look for in the future. These are not dual model plays. And with that, week 1 kicks off on really Thursday at 2:30 my time. I love this. I'll probably miss a bit. I'll probably be at the pool, unfortunately. Boise State in South Florida. I talked myself into this during the American preview. I'm not really buying Boise. I'm buying much more South Florida. To remind you, this 81 Apex right here is basically you've got one game against Alabama that is dragging that way down. If you take out the Alabama game last year, Byron Brown's Apex was 110 or 111, I believe. I've got news for everybody. This Boise State defense is nowhere near as good as Alabama's. I like his chances here. This is down to 6 now. This is, to me, officially the something stinks line. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to bet it. I've picked it as my upset. That might be enough just spiritual stakes for me.
This is 100%. I noticed that too. This is 100%. This just screams trap. This is, and again, a lot of people have, for some reason, picked Boise State to be the team from the G5 in the playoff.
Yep.
It's just, that's not how this works, guys. You can't, I get why you'd want to do that. That's a bad idea, though. Because I'm fairly sure, didn't we start last year with people saying that was going to be Liberty this year? They're like, Liberty's going to be the one. And it was like, I don't think people quite realize how much variance there is at the G5 level. And this is not like random people on Twitter. These are people who have like millions of followers and are on network TV. So that's who's talking about this. And here's the thing. If you are insert random bet or put yourself in the mind of a guy who just saw Boise go into the playoffs. It's like, South Florida sucks. Boise's going to the playoffs this year. Of course they'll cover 6.5 against South Florida. One, Ashton Jainty was a huge amount of their production, offensive production last year. Maddox, I think it was, I can't remember his first name. Was it
Madsen?
Yeah,
Madsen, who knows?
Maddox. I think it's the first name. Last name is Maddox. He was not particularly good. The reason that they lost to Penn State was because Penn State said, we're going to just stop Ashton Jainty from running, force him to throw, and then that did not work out particularly well. Now, obviously, South Florida's defense, not as good as Penn State's, but their offense is pretty good, too. They lose, if you're not worried about Boise State running the ball, which, again, I don't think you're worried about a top 10 NFL running back. I don't think you're just replacing that like that. Like, it wasn't like the offensive line was so amazing for Boise State last year that it created Ashton Jainty. I think this line stinks. Also, pretty far travel. Idaho to South Florida, it's going to be a lot warmer than they're used to down there. You got the humidity. It's in the afternoon. I think this could be a sneaky upset. And again, if you're the books there, if you're comfortable hanging at 6, because I think you think there's an off chance South Florida actually wins this game. Like, you're not hanging at 6 if you think Boise's winning by 50. And to be honest, if you remove Ashton Jainty and they lost some pieces on the coaching side as well, it's what you get. It's not like...
I'm sorry, what? Some pieces? You mean their head coach last year? Their stealth head coach?
Yes. That's the thing, right? See, I think we pick up on this stuff and we're like, yeah, that line makes sense. But if you're random better and you're like, Boise's going to the playoff, of course they're going to cover a touchdown against South Florida and be like, nope, let's get this started. Let's get this started going. Let's get this started early. I like South Florida here.
Yeah, I got to point out that there's not much of a difference between these two defenses right here. They're roughly the same. And what's interesting too is I heard just today on the Audible podcast by The Athletic, one of the guys, I forget which one, was justifying his pick of Boise to make the playoff to say, yeah, they lose Ashton Jainty, but they've got a transfer from Fresno State that nobody can tackle. Guess what? That means your defense stinks. It stunk last year and it still stinks because Fresno State wasn't setting the world on fire last year with their running game, folks. The guy might be talented, but he's not that good. So we both like it here. Go ahead,
Yes,
please.
I will just quickly point out because I'm looking on the game for Thursday. The total is 63.5. Byron Brown over 1.5 passing touchdowns plus 115. That's pretty attractive.
Yeah, yeah, geez. The only threat is he might run him in instead.
Still think
Yeah,
it's worth
this,
it.
yeah, and going back to your earlier point too, this is not a matter of the books trying to keep their bets even. This is basically them saying, sure, bet all the boys you want at 6.5, guys.
Yeah,
6.5. We're definitely open for business. So that great way to kick off week one on Thursday. This is a good Friday game. Auburn's three starting quarterbacks. I don't know if they've named a starter yet.
no, they said all three are
At,
gonna play.
oh God, if you're doing that with three, this is kind of Gary Anderson at Utah State, where he's just like, you know what, screw you guys. I'm going to start Spencer Petras, and they just said, okay, you're done. It's three quarterbacks. I think that's like just the cry for help from Hugh Freeze at this point. I don't think he wants to be there anymore. That's so dumb. I was a little hard on Baylor. Phil Steele has picked them to win the conference. They're very much one-sided for me. I want to see more out of the defense from an Aranda team. Now, Auburn's just really officially. I wanted to bet Auburn. I wanted to like Auburn this year as a bounce back from last year because their defense was actually pretty good, and the sole hole in the game was, what was the kid's name? The Michigan State guy that stunk so bad. Um,
Oh, Peyton Thorne.
yes, clearly he was like the hole in the program, but now three quarterbacks. I have no faith in what's going on there. Auburn did lose their defensive coordinator as well. I don't know how much that's going to affect them. This is just going to. This is almost like the doom watch in terms of, wow, this could go really bad early for Auburn, I think is the angle here. I have no desire to bet this one, but this is just definitely one to watch.
I'm 100% watching this game. I'm not betting this directly, but I threw Baylor into a teaser up to 8. I really like that. I think that's kind of a nice. There are some nice spots when you're like, if you don't know and you think the game could be close, having an 8 is nice. And I think I did that. I teased San Jose State down against Central Michigan, down to 6.5 or something. So I like that spot. But no, like 100%. The old adage is if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So how many quarterbacks do you have if you have three quarterbacks? Right? Is that like -1? Is that it's not one? It's
Yeah.
not good. And we
That's
said,
known as a WIMSAT, I think, is what it's known
yeah.
as.
I mean, we called this out. We're like, is Jackson Arnold really the solution? And apparently the answer was no. He actually isn't the solution, which is cool. But this is the thing. Like, what are we doing here? And this is not. For some reason, the line is going up. It was 2, now it's 2.5. I'm not sure why it's 2.5, but okay. Yeah, if I had to take the thing, I'd take Baylor here. But if you can find a way, if you can find somewhere to tease Baylor, I'd 100% do that. I think that's a really smart play.
Yeah, I just think Baylor, you've got continuity off of a good first season quarterback in there by Sawyer Robertson. A lot of green over here, so it's just a lot of continuity off a really good season. I can just see Auburn eventually just tripping over themselves the whole time, and at some point they hold it up for a while defensively, and the dam breaks, but I don't feel strongly enough to bet it. All right. Don't know if I feel strongly enough to bet this one either. This is another line that I don't know if this is just fairy dust from last year or if this might be somebody knows something thing. Colorado lost a lot from last year's team. In a vacuum, I would say, at first look, I would say there's no way Georgia Tech should only be a 4-point favorite, even though it's on the road. You've got red here, red there. Their offensive line seems like it'll never be good. The case for maybe it being close is like Colorado's defense was sneaky good last year, especially against the run. They were horrible Dion's first year, and they actually should be good. A lot of prime starts and high career starts here and enough returning pieces where they should be good enough. Now you lose Travis Hunter. That hurts. I think they actually got a decent coaching staff in place on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe that's it. Georgia Tech, maybe it's just a matter of Georgia Tech's not the sexiest team to bet on. But this is a good team last year, and they scared the hell out of Kirby last year too. So I'm watching this for more hints. This is no way bettable for me because it could be. It's a coin flip as to which narrative turns out to be true, but they're vastly different. And I do think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's. I think there's no way the books were going to let you. And this line is actually ticking up to 4.5 now, but I think there's no way the books were going to let you because like they know Colorado money's going to come in. I think there's no way they're going to get up
Yeah.
to 6 or 7, right? They're going to hold this at 4, which is, I think the book's saying Georgia Tech should win, but we want coverage in case Colorado actually somehow manages to win this game. And I'm on Georgia Tech in that case. I think Georgia Tech is a better team. I think they could do a lot more. I think they should be able to win this game. Georgia Tech here. You could. This is also a sneakily little teaser, like you can get it up to. Is it 2? No, it's not 2. No, I don't think you can get them up to 2.5, which isn't great, but it's not horrible either. But that one I'd probably stay away from. Cause you'd want, if you're going to do that, you want the 3, like 3 and
Yeah.
3.5. But it's something. You could maybe throw it into something. But yeah, no, I like Colorado here. I think Colorado's just a better team. Sorry, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's a better team, not Colorado.
Yeah. One thing, I guess the other thing, this isn't a game thing to watch, more of a social media thing to watch, is Colorado still going to be one of those heavily public betting teams? Like, I guess, I don't know if the Cowboys are still like that or the Packers. Those seem to be the two that are always taking just average Joe Square
Cowboys,
money.
Cowboys, yes. Packers, yes. But the thing is, the Packers are like good, so that one makes sense. But the Cowboys are like only sometimes good, so you could see it a lot more in the Cowboy numbers, where this number is wrong, but it's harder to see it in the Packer number. But no, I think that's exactly what Dion's going to be, and I think you even see this. You see it now with Shador. He had a very rough game. So that was what I was watching on Saturday afternoon because I couldn't get the UNLV Idaho State game.
Oh,
But what I was yeah, but what I was able to do is I was able to get the Los Angeles Rams Cleveland Brown game, and for some reason the Browns were like 9.5 point favorites against the Rams in a preseason game, and the Rams have actually looked pretty good this preseason. So I took the Rams, and I watched on with like horror as Shador Sanders went like 3 straight 0-3s. Like he tried to do the stuff where he like you go back and you dodge a bunch of defenders and but guess what? That doesn't work in the NFL. It doesn't work in the NFL. That's called a 20-yard sack in the NFL, right? Because those DBs are better than the DEs are a lot better there than they are in college, right? So you can't get away with that in an NFL, even in a preseason game. So just ridiculous things like 20-yard sacks, intentional grounding penalties, just rough shape from him. And then basically for the game-winning drive, they pulled Shador, threw in another quarterback, and then he did lead them down the field to get the game-winning field goal. But people online were like, I'm still seeing people on Twitter talking about this. They're all like, oh, they set him up to fail. They released 3 of the 5 offensive linemen that were on for his drives. It's just like, this isn't, what do you want? This isn't, it's a preseason game. You can't be, they didn't set him up to failure. This is insane. These people are deranged. And I think you're going to see the exact same thing. If you see Colorado lose this game, there are going to be people defending them, saying Dion saying, "Oh, it's just he can't do anything without Shador," or "Oh, it's a tough spot." Like these people are very weird, and I think this is only going to be a problem for a little bit. I suspect Dion wants to go to the NFL at some point, and I think this is going to be a pretty rough year for them. And I think maybe he might try to jump relatively soon, but. We'll have to see. I don't know. He is still recovering from cancer, and it's great he did beat cancer. That is great. But at the same time, this year is not going to be good for them, and I would not ban him in this game.
Do you think they might still be one of these overbet by the public teams,
I think so.
Hunter and Shador?
Yeah, I think so. We've been very lucky in many cases to be able to catch like Colorado and just we've been really able to identify when they're massively overvalued and when they're massively undervalued. I remember there's been a lot of times when we're like, remember when they were 21-point underdogs to Oregon and we're like, this is wrong, it's more, and it was a lot more. And there's times when we've said, nope, they're better than this, and they have been better than this. So I'm very much leaning towards like you're putting in a completely untested quarterback against in my opinion, one of the better teams in the ACC. Don't think that's remotely competitive.
Yeah, first college start, true freshman too, in Juju Lewis. Former USC commit, so good luck to you, Mr. Lewis. Somewhat. Okay. Yeah. I'm just going to say this. I think the market's almost waving the flag on UNLV being good this year with this line. Is that fair? 10.5? What would this have been a week ago?
I
Had to
don't
be
know
like
that
20.
there probably is a way to figure out what it was, but I don't know what it was. But yeah, it's got to have been different. But no, this is still too high. This isn't just the market saying,
You
okay,
think so?
maybe. I think 10.5 is way too high. I like. I don't. I think Conference USA is better than people give it credit for, and I don't think the Mountain West is actually that good. This is coming across the country. This is Vegas to Texas. Sam Houston was actually surprisingly good against Western Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty competitive in that game. They got lucky to beat an FCS team. Like I don't. Sam Houston not too far removed from being an FCS team. Now they're better than Idaho
True.
State, but this is the thing. I think I was scared away from Sam Houston because when we do the previews, we see that red there. We see the red on the defense and we see the red on the offense, and that's concerning. But I think it's very clear now that's a bit overblown. They were able to hold their own against what I perceive to be a pretty good Western Kentucky team as well. So and again, like I saw again, what was the apex of the quarterback from Idaho State? What was it? A 67 apex career,
68. Yeah.
68 career
Career.
apex
Yeah.
before that game, and he torched them for 300 and some odd yards. That's insane. I'm all over Sam Houston on this. This line just seems wrong. This should be a lot closer.
Yeah, I didn't even check this. I ask you to check this? I'm gonna guess the total on this one has got to be like at least 63.
Is 61.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say this: UNLV, as I already described, they have very basic problems on defense. UNLV also completely had their way, for the most part, with Idaho State on offense. I think that they found ways to not find ways in the beginning, and once they stopped doing the really dumb stuff, Idaho State couldn't stop them.
But that's an FCS team, though.
Correct. I don't think this is a good defense. Let's not forget, Sam Houston lost their head coach, defensive coordinator, and everywhere they could play defense in this team last year is now playing for North Texas. I could see that going well over 61. I think there's a few ways to play this game. This isn't even on TV, is it? This might be my YouTube special again.
Maybe. Let me check that. I'll have to check that actually. Yeah, let's see. I will check that and I'll let you know what TV network this is on.
I get so confused here. I can pull it up real quick here myself. That's on. I think that's still on Friday, right? Or is it Saturday?
It is Friday. It is.
That's the last Friday game.
No, it's an hour before Central Michigan San Jose State.
There we go. Okay. Oh, it's on CBS Sports. Beautiful. Okay.
Nah, we don't
Of
get
course,
CBS.
if it's Friday night, yeah, it's going to be. Okay.
We don't get CBS Sports here anymore.
All right. Try YouTube. Let's just see if it's on there.
I gotta find a way. There's gotta be a way. Like
seriously, try YouTube. There's some anarchist that doesn't believe in copyright law and just streams the stuff. Okay, yeah, that's I don't know. For we who those of us who thrive in the fringes and forage in the bushes here, this is must-watch TV here. UNLV at Sam Houston.
Oh,
I'm interested in this too, just because I'm on San Jose State. This line looks really short to me. You've got the best returning. First of all, let's just set the stage a little bit. The Mountain West is clearly a cut plus above the MAC. We're going to talk to Phil Steele in February and say, Phil, you got to put the MAC at the very back of the magazine. It's the worst conference here. You've got a brand new coach, first-time head coach at Central Michigan. I would say, for the other part of that magic recipe, I would say that 29 Apex by Mr. LaBosse, do not remember his first name, is a good head start on being a bad quarterback too. Now, maybe he'll improve. You've got, I think, probably a different kind of offense here. The head coach at Central Michigan was the offensive line coach at Army. So who knows what kind of offense Duck does. But I don't forget what Duck told us. You're starting over on the offensive line. Your defense was absolutely positively miserable. You're returning a lot, which is not a good sign in the MAC. That really means that nobody wants these guys on your defense. I'll put it this way. When I was doing this one in my head, this is why I wanted to talk about this one. I was thinking as I could back San Jose State giving up like 16.5 or so without much problem. I don't know what I'm missing here. I don't know if the people just aren't getting the difference in conferences here. Admittedly, I'm maybe a little bit overly bearish or can't be objective about San Jose State because I'm over them for the season win total, but This line just doesn't look right to me. This doesn't seem like a stink line. This, unless I just can't see it.
I
What are
don't
your thoughts
think.
on that?
Yeah, I don't think you can have a stink line with two teams like this. These are teams that fade pretty close. Like with Boise State, yeah, like 100%. It's the team that a lot of people are picking to go to the playoff. Yeah, there could be a stinky line there, but who is, except with the exception of us, who is, man, that San Jose State line seems wrong. Seems a little too short there. Not a lot of people are doing that. I think you've got a lot of people who generally will be pro Mac. There's like randomly there's people who bet on some of these MAC teams, but no, like this is cross country. It's pretty far cross country. I like. I'm not even sure why Central Michigan is going to San Jose State. That's pretty far away. I really like San Jose State here. I think this is just the books trying to put a number here, and they're just hoping to get equal money on even money. It's basically people who have no idea what they're doing, just betting on the last game. And I think they're just hoping for equal action, and they have no idea. I think they know it's probably bigger than this, but I think they know if they put 20 something, if they put like a 20-point line here, then no one's going to bet it, or everybody's just going to bet San Jose State, or everybody's going to bet Central Michigan or something. So I think they're just hedging a bit by putting it here. But yeah, no, this should be well over 2 scores. This should not be that close.
Yeah, maybe and I just rationalized it away. You do lose two really good receivers in Nash, and I think the other kid's name was Lockhart, and you're started over a little bit, but I don't know. You've got a really good OC. The coach is good versus a first time head coach, so maybe there's just a little too much value in that. Okay. First game of Saturday, Robert. FAU at Maryland. This has got to be the big noon kickoff, right? If it's a Big Ten team at 9 a.m. Pacific, it has to be. I don't know if I'm going to talk myself into it. Let's just kind of set the stage here in terms of FAU was really bad last season. Really bad. And you're only a 14.5-point dog on the road against a Big Ten team? I don't think I can talk myself into betting FAU because there's so many problems on defense. The entire thing is, we said they might be able to find some proof of concept within conference play because at least there's an identity with Kitley and Veltkamp. But boy, Maryland's going to be really bad if it's just 14.5.
Hey, I like FAU here. I have a lot of faith in the fact that because FAU had always been, there was like a bunch of times when the model kind of liked FAU and they just never could put it together. They'd lose their starting quarterback to injury with their last coach. It never worked out well. And I think now you've got a coach who has a very strong offensive identity, and they're gonna score points. You've got a good quarterback, good offensive identity, and Maryland is in trouble here. Maryland has lost. They lost their good quarterback from a couple of years ago. The last year's quarterback wasn't good. I think he's now Wisconsin's quarterback, which is arguably worse. So you've got starting brand new at a quarterback, but you actually like Florida Atlantic actually has a good quarterback from last year. Maryland's defense is in trouble. FAU's defense is also in trouble, but like I trust Veltkamp to score a lot more points than unknown Maryland quarterback. So I like FAU here. I think FAU might actually have a good coach this time. I think Texas Tech was good on offense last year. If you can carry over the offense here, or at least some of it here, I think this could be a competitive game, which is crazy. And the thing is, no one's gonna be watching this game because they're the other big new kickoff game. But this should be a Friday or Saturday night. I don't know why this is, but it's fine. I'm excited. I have FAU on this. Again, I do some work with the FAU University, so asterisk there, disclaimer. But no, I actually do FAU here, so I want to see what they can do.
Yeah, I think it's long season for the Terps. This is Jesus. That's a incriminating line. I'll just say. All right. I'm going to take the other side of the argument here. I think that I don't feel strongly enough to bet on this, but I think everybody needs to settle down on an overrated MAC team being able to contend with an SEC team. Now, Kentucky's going to have a rough season. Certainly, more Bush Hamden is not going to help, or is Zach Calzada. But this was a bad Toledo offense last year. I just think that alone is just Kentucky will just stumble into 14 points. I don't know if Toledo even scores. They're not that good. I'm not impressed by a guy with a 93 apex in the MAC. I just doubt the ability for him to do anything against a decent SEC defense here and a good defensive mind. in Stoops. This number just looks way short to me, and not in a stink way. I think in just people don't. The market's not properly judging the difference in conferences here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I will say that Kentucky has struggled with MAC teams in the past. I remember a very close game against Northern Illinois a couple of years ago with Will Levis. I don't know. I think this, to me, also screams Kentucky should easily cover this spread. The same way as the Boise one. Not as much, but it does feel the same way. It's like this line should be pretty obvious. I don't know. I got Toledo at 8.5, so I'm pretty happy here. But, yeah, not a huge play here. Maybe put something on Toledo. Maybe not now, but, yeah, I think Toledo might be the play here and just walk. I want to see how this outcome. I want to see those comes. If Toledo either covers or wins this game, Kentucky is toast. Like, Stoops is done.
Yeah.
And if they somehow win and cover, then okay, maybe we could talk more. But if not, then just if Kentucky loses this game, where's the floor? Like, where is the floor? I don't know where the floor is going to be. That's a scary thought.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing too is when we did like the overview of all these G5 conferences, but especially the MAC, so little talent stays there. I think that gap between the MAC and a Power 2 conference is just so wide, and I think that's what I think the market is not properly pricing in. Again, I don't feel strong enough to bet it, but I don't know. I'll be regretting if they do cover that, the 7.5. All right, Alabama at Florida State. Alabama giving an interesting 13.5. Alabama's probably, let me take a step back here. Since our last podcast, I actually did make a small wager on Notre Dame. And just at 14-1, it was just too good to pass up to win the playoff. Alabama's probably the number 2 team that I like in terms of just returning a lot and having a column 1 coach, as we call him, basically, in that coach's graphic. I need to see it from this quarterback. I'm a little concerned about the guy. When we had Graham on, he said, yeah, he's not really a mobile guy, Ty Simpson. So I want to see some proof of concept here. So the questions at quarterback keep this from being an easy play on Alabama, but there's just too much difference here. Florida State will be better, but man, they're starting from a really bad spot from last year. I do really like the hire of Tony White, but I don't know how much he can improve that defense overnight against a really good offensive line. You've got one of the best receivers in all of football, too, that you have to try to stop. Good luck with that. You're not going to see anything like that in the ACC, I don't think. So the only thing is just, like I said, the quarterback question is the only reason I wouldn't bet Alabama here. Am I overthinking that?
It is the only reason to not bet it. But, it's really hard to pass that up, though.
Yeah.
Could Ty Simpson be not that good? Sure. But Florida State could still be good this year. They could lose this game by 30, and they could still be good this year. I think people don't think that way. I think they think if Florida State isn't competitive in this game, they're going to be bad this year. Which, they 100% could be. But, I could 100, and I'm sure you could see it too. Florida wins this, 45-10. Or Alabama wins this 45-10. Yeah, Bama wins it 45-10. And then Florida State goes 8-4. I can see that. Alabama could just be that good. They could be that good. I think there were some issues last year, but I also think that this is now Kalen DeBoer now has had a full year. He had a lot of Nick Saban pieces last year, but I think this is now when he's going to start moving his own. He's going to make the offense more his own. I think you're going to see a lot closer to Washington's offense under Michael Penix than last year with Nick Saban, than last year, what he was doing last year. I think this is going to be a lot. I think they want to score, and they want to score a lot of points. And I think now he's going to have the talent and the people to do that. And I think that Florida State, maybe their offense will be good. This game is going to be fascinating. I cannot wait for this game because there are so many questions we're going to have answers to. We're going to have questions about Ty Simpson. We're going to get answers on that. We're going to have answers about Thomas Castellanos and Gus Malzahn. Is that going to be good? And we're going to have answers about Florida State's defense. Is that going to be good too? So many questions are going to be answered in this game, and I'm excited for it. I can't wait to see this game. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I'll put it this way now. This is not really a hot take. It's probably, yeah, no kidding, genius. I think pretty easily this will be the worst game that Castellanos has this season. I think also if you have a lot of pieces returning from defense that had a practice against Jalen Milroe last year, they're going to know Thomas Castellanos will be a breath of fresh air compared to practicing against Jalen Milroe last year. It's the old practice is harder than the game. Now, I know it's a different team, but you're returning a lot of pieces. So I think that this is probably about as bad of a matchup we can get for him. Under a first-time OC for him, too.
One thing I will say is that Milroe has not looked amazing with Seattle this year, in this preseason. Now that actually would be a positive indicator for Alabama, meaning, hey, maybe he wasn't actually that good, and maybe some inconsistency was on Milroe. Now, again, you can play this game all day, but at that point, I'd probably be a lot more happy to be on the Alabama side here than on the Florida State side. And I am on the Alabama side here. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely one to watch, though.
Oh, yeah.
As is this. I'm going to start with this. Clemson has an amazing home field advantage, and the fact that they're giving only 4 is interesting to me. Now, I'm a lot more bearish on LSU. Actually, I think we all were when we did the SEC. You and Graham and me were all a little bearish. So I picked this obviously because it's a headline game, and so you have to. But the reason I really picked this is these are 2 overrated quarterbacks. These are probably the 2 most overrated quarterbacks in all of college football. These are 2 of probably the 3 favorites for the Heisman in this game.
And first overall pick for next year in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Now, Nussmeier was a first-year starter. There is returning talent in the wide receiving core. Okay, why was your apex 100 or 102, depending on which side of the ball you're on here? I think this comes down to I probably trust Tom Allen as a defensive coordinator more than Brad Baker, who made a small improvement on LSU's defense. This line, I don't know. I want to say maybe this will inform me that I'm just too bearish on Clemson, but if LSU is just not what I think too, and this game is close, this might be like what you just said about the whole. Now it's not the same, obviously, with 2 teams this caliber. But maybe just both these teams are just overrated.
I think at the end of the year we're going to look at this and be like, this was 4 versus 8, and that's the thing. Like, I think at the end of this, I think it's going to be Clemson, but I think next week we're going to be like, why was LSU ranked? It's going to be why was LSU ranked 8th or why was Clemson ranked 4th? And the thing is, I think it's far more likely it's going to be like, why was Clemson ranked 4th? Because I just think Clemson, like, you want to make an argument that Clemson should be a top 10 team, fine, whatever. But Texas beat Clemson by 14 points in the semifinal. Not a close game. That is not a close game. That is the definition of not a close game. Texas is 1, Clemson is 4. You're telling me the difference between 1 and 4 is 14 points on a neutral field. When Ohio State is actually favorites, Ohio State number 2, I believe. I'm fairly sure they're the number 2 team, or the number 3 team, I can't remember. It was like 1 Texas, I think 2 Penn State, or 3 Ohio State, or something along that lines. That's fine. But the difference between 1 and 3 is 2.5, and then 1 and 4 is 14.5, like 14. That's nuts. There's no way. Because LSU would not be getting 14 against Texas. Right? That's the thing.
So, no, it's 4. What are you talking about?
What do you mean? I'm saying Clemson versus Texas last year in the playoffs.
Gotcha.
And I'm saying 1 versus 4. But that's the point, right? I think we were not high on Clemson last year. Yeah. Through all the chaos of the ACC, they stopped in the championship game, which, again, like, if Miami had beat Syracuse, Clemson wouldn't be 4th right now.
Yeah,
which is it.
That's a great point.
The thing. Clemson would not be 4th right now if Miami had just beaten Syracuse, a team they were 20-point favorites over. We'd be talking about how this is okay. Maybe Clemson would be 10th. They'd be 10th ranked. And
Clemson did have a nice. Sorry, they did have a nice run at the end of last season, but wasn't it against just who's who of nobodies?
Exactly. Yeah, because they struggled early in the season, and then they obviously crushed Florida State. They lost to Louisville last year, if I remember correctly. Yeah, like they did not.
Just got the ACC gift basket after that.
At the end, and then They got advantage of the chaos, and they were able to get into the conference championship game because Miami lost to Syracuse, and then they won it because Kevin Jennings threw 2 interceptions, and then they were able to march down the field and get a last-second field goal, and then they got blown out in the quarterfinal game, and then now they're fourth for some reason. That just seems completely wrong to me. I don't think LSU, to be fair, this is not a defense of LSU. I'm not saying, man, LSU, no, I still don't think they're good either. But I just think Clemson is worse than LSU. I think both are bad, but I think it's just you're telling me an SEC, the ACC team is better than the SEC team. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm bearish on both teams, so it's really hard for me to calibrate.
And then just take the points then.
Yeah, I thought about that earlier today, but God, it's 2 teams that are overrated, and 2 specifically overrated quarterbacks. In that case, do I just go with the defensive coordinator I believe in, which is Clemson? I think Tom Allen's a really good defensive coordinator. I don't know. I'm finding far more reasons not to bet this one than bet this one, but we got to watch it, right? Because this is going to be
This is the prime time game.
We'll somehow feel validated no matter what happens in this game. Because one of them will just not look good in week 1, and we'll overreact and be unfair to them.
We won't talk about the other projection. We always said the team that lost was overrated. We just won't talk about that.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Not quite as headlining, but fascinating to me. Louisiana given only 13.5 hosting Rice. Rice is in a bad spot this year. Now, Duck was, I think, a lot more optimistic about Rice than me. But they are starting completely over. They hired, you might remember, I was very unkind to their head coach's resume. It's not good. Now, Duck explained, and this is really just the good news, is really the bad news, especially in the short term. I think he was explaining that he had to coach where basically there are no scholarships. Okay, I get the line of thinking there. I don't like that. Stepping way up into Louisiana is consistently good after that first post-Napier year. And especially on the offensive side of the ball, DeSormo has proven himself able to plug anybody into his offensive system. And he was the OC under Napier before Napier left. I remember 2 years ago in the season preview, I pointed out that the prior year, so in 23, DeSormo actually had 3 different quarterbacks that each had an apex over 100, which is nuts. It's not Lincoln Riley, but it's not Lincoln Riley either. That says a lot for the Sun Belt. This is a guy that he knows how to get everything out of the limit that he can, given limitations in Louisiana. If I just have one spot where I'm basically have to plug in for Louisiana, otherwise a really settled and established program against a complete rebuild for a Rice team that is going to more of an option set, I can pretty comfortably guess, and I think, I'm pretty comfortable in saying that there's no way that they have the quarterback that is ideal to run the system. As an old guy from the Pac-10, we saw this long ago when, I don't know if you remember, this is probably before you were, probably you're still watching SpongeBob and not watching college football. Oregon State used to run the option. And sometimes they would have a quarterback that just wasn't a fit. And even the first year of the guy that was a fit, it would be awful. It would be just horrible to watch. And I think that you're going to see exceptionally horrible things on offense. It'll be funky to watch just because it's different. This is the team, Robert, you might remember where I said their projected starting quarterback this year was a quarterback 2 years ago and a wide receiver last year. They probably just got the best athlete that kind of knows quarterback, but that does not sound like a fit for option quarterback. So I'm just going to write this down because I like this. Now, you're going to tell me this is moved to 16.5 or something, but I really like this play. This seems like easy going for me, Louisiana.
Down to 11.5.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't fully understand it either. I think this is just the books at a certain point just have to put a number for some of the stuff. They don't want the number to be too high, and they'll give you that. They'll be like, whatever. You want to put money on Louisiana? Sure. I think this is where kind of our research and what we do on this, it has a huge impact on some of the stuff. We're able to see, hey, Rice is in really deep trouble. And I think that's, I think I bet this. I'm fairly sure I bet this one already, yeah. I'm not sure which book I did, but I definitely bet this already. Yeah, I might double dip again because it's down to 11.5. That's nuts. It should not be that low.
Yeah, we need to start a segment just called "I Wish I Could Talk To." Like I said, I wish I could talk to whoever voted for Kansas State in their top 20. I would love to talk to the person that actually drove this line down by 2 points and just say, do you not get Rice here, or do you know him so well and this guy's going to be an SEC coach within 3 years apparently because he's going to take this horrible team and make them competitive? Or do you secretly hate Louisiana or what? I don't get any angle here. I don't see a path other than I don't even know. There's nothing to like about Rice. There's nothing to like about it. There's a good school. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Yeah, good medical school. That's a good point. We should have that as a recurring segment. Like people we want to talk to this week. Be like, I want to talk to the person who put Kansas State like 15th or something, like something like that. Or like the person who decided to move this line 2 points towards Rice. Yeah, we should do that. It should be a recurring segment.
I just that much money to do that. I don't know. I just genuinely want to talk to that person. This one is interesting to me. Again, UCLA zigzagged. I wanted to be bullish on them this year since they were secretly strangely functional, especially on offense last year. But then the whole Nico thing, and this is not a fade Nico thing explicitly, it's really just you're going against kind of the rules of physics as it relates to quarterback by playing a quarterback that wasn't in for spring. Utah, I had actually been down on for quite some time as their defense had been overrated. They finally fixed it last year. They're going to be really improved. This is going to be a classic Kyle Whittingham thing. I don't... boy, I'm almost going to talk myself into it. The other thing not to like about UCLA is their defense was so good 2 years ago, and they have nothing left from that group. Nothing. So I think Devin Dampier can cause problems for them. I just still need to see him prove it at this level. Now, Duck, since we did the Big 12 podcast twice, he twice made the point that he's in a better situation here. He might be just a don't be a Gavin Wimsatt, and by the way, you can run the ball like Reggie Bush. So maybe it works. I'm almost talking to myself into Utah here. I don't see a lot that I'm wild about with this UCLA team, although I wanted to go over with them like about March.
I agree here. I like Utah here too. I think there are so many. I think the reason this is only -6 is because it's at UCLA. I think people are giving way too much respect to that road game, right? I think Kyle Whittingham's a good coach. I don't think UCLA has a good coach. I think it's very weird that Nico landed at UCLA. I think if he was truly in demand and truly worth the money he wanted, someone would have said, fine. And again, any number of desperate SEC teams, like Maryland, they need a quarterback. Ton of SEC teams and Big Ten teams, and even ACC teams. UCLA is a Big Ten team, but teams that had more.
Are you telling me that he would be an upgrade over our beloved Bill Gulbranson at Stanford?
Yeah, like this is the thing. Like, yeah, Ben Gulbranson, he's probably got like a 1 lap lead on the bum list already. He's just not even close at this point. But no, it's like UCLA would not have been the school I would have been like, oh man, you know what? Perfect fit. There you go. It is weird he ended up here, and the fact that Tennessee didn't particularly care too much, and the fact that Tennessee gladly took UCLA's quarterback. And they could have had other options, but they're like, no, we're going to take UCLA's quarterback now. So I like Utah here. I think Utah is going to be good. I think Utah's being underrated because of everything that happened last year. I think Utah is going to be a pretty solid team this year. So I'm taking them. I'm laying the 6.5 here.
That's a good point. I think there's a lot of bad quarterbacking from the last 2 to 3 years baked into this line. If you just had an average, just like a whatever, who's like an average, no, not Billy Edwards, that's a little extreme, but say you had Fernando Mendoza there, just the last couple of years, this line's probably 12 or 13, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. You make a really good point. All right, I'm going to think about that. This one, I've got 2 of my favorite children fighting with each other. I don't know who to scold here. I just said I've got Notre Dame to win the national title. Need to win this one. Don't want to start 0-1. I've got Miami to win the ACC with the beloved Corey Heatherman. this is not bettable for me. I guess gun to the head, I'd probably take Notre Dame. I just think I'm not exactly breaking news here, but I think Marcus Freeman's a better coach than Mario Cristobal. I like Notre Dame to win it all because they have the fewest questions of any team. One thing I just occurred to me too was we talked about this in a roundabout way with Dylan, and I didn't really come to this conclusion explicitly until just in my mind today. Riley Leonard was so disappointing. Even though CJ Carr is a freshman, he could probably be an upgrade in the passing game, like right out of the gate.
Yeah,
right?
He could be.
That's the question I have, and it's not like you're replacing Jackson Dart or Tim Tebow. You're replacing a guy whose apex was like 90. You're replacing a guy who was literally the only reason I didn't bet on Notre Dame to win the playoff last year. Specifically, they were at a disadvantage at quarterback. If they just, I don't want to talk myself into this, but good game to watch. I don't think this is bettable just because of the Corey Heatherman thing that I've put a lot of eggs into that Corey Heatherman basket. You're a little more skeptical, so you're probably going to say that Notre Dame is the play here.
Yeah, I'm on Notre Dame here. I got the money line at minus 130, and I threw it in with a teaser. South Carolina down to -2, and Notre Dame teased up to 3.5. I really like that. I think Notre Dame could just outright win here. I don't think they need the 3.5, but nice to have that though. The thing is, again, we've talked about Miami, and I agree with you. There is some reasons to be bullish on Miami. The problem though is how much can you do to fix a defense in just 1 year?
Yeah. Yes. Go on. Please pick up on that once you've completed that.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, please.
Because I know you can make a defense better, but how many times have we seen a new defensive coordinator come in and it's a 2 to 3 year project until it's a truly elite defense? And that defense was really rough last year. And okay, a huge improvement. That could 100% help Miami. 100%. If suddenly that Syracuse game doesn't happen, things are a lot better for Miami, right? But at the same point in time, the offense is going to regress too. There is no way Carson Beck is going to put up Cam Ward numbers in that. So this is why I'm leaning Notre Dame.
You're really good about like the sliding doors moments here. That Syracuse game has a lot of ifs and but nots and all that stuff.
Yes.
I'll say this. There's one thing that that nobody can argue with Mario, and that is his ability to recruit. This is not like you're going into Northwestern and saying, okay, we're going to build a top 5 Big Ten defense here. There's talent there, it just wasn't coached well. It's not like it's undersized. It's not like it's slow. It's not like it's got guys like you and me at linebacker. It needs a good coach. I think that'll go a much longer way in a year one, and I think that's the one thing I had in my brain but I hadn't explicitly said, and that's I think why I'm just a lot more of a believer than you in like the immediate impacts. But again, you've got a secretly elite team here. If you look at, so I can't play Miami here. I just want to talk about Notre Dame. Apparently, like a 1 hour special on them wasn't enough. Somehow, isn't it just weird that literally one of the very, very few elitist, most elite recognizable brands in all of college football, it's being slept on this preseason?
Yeah, it's true.
And they went to the title game? It's not like this is you're trying to sell people on USC. Yeah, we won 6-6 last year, but we'll be better. These guys went to the title game. And they're 14-1 to win the playoff? And if you look at people's brackets, everybody's got them, but everybody's got them as like a 6, 7, 8 seed, right? What is the world coming to when a USC guy is? I have to ask the question: Am I being too boosterish of Notre Dame? It just doesn't make sense.
I think there's just a lot of fear of brand new freshman starting quarterback, same as Michigan, right? I think there's a lot of fear.
Oh, why?
Of
Because he won't be as good as Riley Leonard was last year? Oh, no.
Yeah, no, that's fair, right? They got pretty far with that. And there's an argument that, yeah, CJ Carr could actually be a bit of an improvement over Riley Leonard. That's a very strong argument. So I agree there are a lot of concerns. Miami, I think, has far more question marks than Notre Dame does here. But, no, you know what? I'm starting to come along to what you're saying here. You're right. They made the national championship game last year, and barely anybody's talked about them. We talk about how Ohio State's going to be there, and Texas is going to be there, and Clemson, for some reason, we keep talking about Clemson. And we're like, nah, Notre Dame, no. Like, Notre Dame was, like, better than Clemson last year. Like, why are they not
Neutral site. What would you make? What would you make the line on Notre Dame versus Clemson?
I knew you were gonna ask that one. Do they? They don't play this year, right? now. Neutral site. If Notre Dame is -2.5 at Miami, Florida, neutral site Clemson's probably 3.5, maybe somewhere between 2.5, 3.5, somewhere like that.
I would have
if this is neutral site, this is Notre Dame minus what, 5, -3, 3.5, 4.
No, just give them like a field goal, so 5, 5.5.
Yeah, so then Clemson's got to be Notre Dame -3, -2.5 to 3, something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna come to 7.5 or so. Is like what my number was.
But that still seems, you're right, that does seem really low. This is a Notre Dame team that took out Penn State. A good team. Not like the best team, but a good team. And they took down Indiana, another good team, too. A team that's also underrated as well. I don't know, I think maybe people are just so used to Notre Dame being massively overrated that the one time they're actually good, it's just, I guess they're good now.
You know what? There's probably some Northern Illinois and some Stanford and some Marshall baked into this line.
Probably.
Yeah. Guess what, guys? Mario does that a lot, too. Mario does a lot of dumb stuff. Okay, interesting. Just because one Notre Dame preview wasn't enough. We did a little bonus coverage there for all the Notre Dame people. All right, last one here. I guess I'm on this enough already by being over TCU, 6.5 wins. I'm tempted, but I'm not going to buy against kind of the mystery bag that is North Carolina here. But boy, it's really easy to make a case here in that, what I love about this TCU team is proven quarterback. They should hit the ground running on offense. Hiring Andy Avalos was a great hire. He improved the defense significantly in year one. And this is going to be the best defense for a proven offensive, I'd say, genius in Sonny Dykes, who has taken a team to the national title game. Now, the other guy has, 7 Super Bowl trophies or something like that, so it's not like he's going against Clay Helton.
No.
I think people just are really not appreciating, now to the fact that their season total, I think I delayed 165, but I was happy to do that. I think people just don't appreciate how much TCU is going to hit the ground running, not just specific to this game, but just early season.
I think this is going to be a very sneaky, TCU would, a possible path would be TCU wins this game, people are oh, TCU is pretty good. And then they keep winning, and then all of a sudden you see TCU ranked, and then all of a sudden they play someone who's, hey, TCU is actually sneakily good. I've seen a couple of preview shows, and all the time it's TCU 5-7, 6-6. And I'm just where are you getting this from? This was actually a good team last year. And I think the problem is the fact that there is such a bad taste in people's mouth from the 2023 season.
That Colorado game.
Everybody watched that Colorado game. That's the problem, right? Everybody saw that Colorado game. We all saw Shedeur Sanders pick apart the reigning... Actually, they didn't even win anything. The team that went to they didn't actually win the Big 12 that year, but the team that went to the finals, we saw them absolutely crush them as 21-point dogs. And that was a rough year for them, 100%. But they had lost so much. They lost their quarterback. They lost a wide receiver. They lost so much to the NFL that year. And I think people just forget that Sonny Dykes is actually a good coach. And he actually built a sneakily good team last year, but it went super under the radar because of all the chaos with the SEC and all that other, and the ACC. The chaos in the Big 12 just really fell under the radar. People forget that TCU was there. I think there was a weird scenario with the tiebreaker where TCU could have made the championship game had something weird happened, if I remember correctly. Wasn't it if Iowa State lost, TCU would have made it, I think?
Possibly, yeah. There was already a lot of weird things that happened to get to where we got.
Exactly. But I think people, and again, that's not to say TCU was one of the best teams last year. They weren't. But I think people forget that, hey, they were actually a sneakily good team here. They were not a bad team. I think Bill Belichick is a good coach, and I've said this before. I said this in North Carolina preview. He's a very good coach. He will coach the talent he has to probably their highest level. But that's the problem right there, is that the talent level he has. If Bill Belichick is the coach of Alabama, yeah, that's terrifying. Or Ohio State or Texas. My God, if you replace Sarkisian, I bet Texas would win. That's the level of it, right? But this is a team that had been decaying for years. Mac Brown had not been particularly good at keeping this team up for years. And you throw onto that the fact that they grab, like, Bill Belichick is not a good GM. He's a good coach, but he's a horrible GM. And the problem is that in college football, there is no official role of GM. There should be, and I think there is for some teams. But basically, the coach is the GM because the coach just calls random kids and says, hey, you want to come here? That's what a GM is in college football. And that's what Bill Belichick is. And all this stuff, again, I like TCU here. I think a lot of people think it's, if you like North Carolina, you have to bet North Carolina over TCU because people think TCU will be bad. I think it's like you bet TCU here because TCU is actually good, and then you might actually find some value spots at North Carolina later in the season. That might also be true as well.
This game, didn't it open like North Carolina as a favorite too?
Maybe, but I think it was. I think this has trended to TCU. I think it may have been. I remember definitely being TCU -2 at one point, and now it's 3.5. So now I would. Here's the thing. I can't remember if I bet this or not. I definitely bet TCU to win total over. Don't bet this game right now, because on Sunday and later on Saturday, even in through Monday, there's gonna be a lot of people chasing losses, saying Bill Belichick's got this, right? If this line closes with TCU as more than a 3-point favorite, I'd be pretty shocked. Like 80% of the money is gonna be on Bill Belichick by Monday, like 100%. There's no way. This line is probably going to move back, and we're going to be able to get an amazing sweet spot there, because I'd love TCU at -2.5. That'd be great. I think 3.5 is definitely still bettable, but 2.5, man, it'd be great. TCU is a solid team, and I think that saying TCU is a solid team and that you're banging them against North Carolina doesn't necessarily mean you're super against North Carolina. It just means that you're on TCU.
Yeah. One other thing, too, is I think, as an amateur economist, I think that the hard cap in the NFL kind of and it's weird to say, I think that that might actually hide some of the real deficiencies of GMs, because you're going to have just like decent players that basically the cap is going to make available no matter what. Almost by as a last resort. Okay, here's a $5 million player that everybody passed on. He's legitimately a $5 million player. And I just bring that up because he might be sneakily a really bad evaluator of talent.
The thing is, with the NFL, he was really bad at drafting. He made a lot of really questionable draft choices in the NFL. And I think that's the closest he will get to evaluating talent in college is the draft. Picking up a random free agent, even he wasn't particularly good at that either, because after Tom Brady left, they had a massive roster hole, but they also had a ton of salary cap room. And they went on a spending spree, and they massively overpaid for randoms, basically. Like, good players, but not like top tier talent. It's, we're going to pay this like wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 money. What are we doing here? That's the thing. And like Gio Lopez from South Alabama, like, you couldn't have gotten Nico. If you got Nico, like, that's what, like, this is something where it's like a team that was really desperate should have, like, Nico would have been one. Like, there should have been a better pick than Gio Lopez. 113 Apex, not horrible, but that is in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
Not the greatest. And again, this team had a lot of problems last year. I'd forgotten. James Madison put up 70 against them last year.
Yes, they did.
Like, and it was, I actually remember that game. I was watching that from like I was out and I was watching that from like a restaurant. And I was just watching this and I'm just like, now we were both on James Madison. I don't remember exactly what the line was, but I know for sure we bet on James Madison. And I just remember it was comical. It was just like, okay, it's over. We won, but they just kept scoring. Like, it was so bad. And this is the thing. It's just, I don't know if you can replicate that. I don't know if you can fix that in one season. There's so many problems on offense and on defense. Yeah. I don't know if you can fix that, and especially if you're not the greatest evaluator of talent. I don't know if you can fix that in 6 months. Now, can Bill Belichick, the coach, get a team that's not good to 6-6 or 7-5? Sure, yeah, I could see that, but not national championship competitiveness. And I think TCU is going to be one of the best teams in the Big 12. So, yeah, I think that's where this is at. So, I'd be fading, and I am fading. I'm fading Bill Belichick here. I think there will be spots to play him. There will be spots to play North Carolina, but it's not going to be this game. And this game is front and center, prime time, Monday night.
Yep.
I'm excited for this game. It's going to be great. This game is on Monday, and then the NFL comes back on Thursday. It's going to be, we have a couple days off, and then we're right back into football season with this game. Yeah.
We are. Yep, exclusive window. Great 5 days set up here. That is it for week 1 preview. We will be back in about 7 days where we will review these games, and then we will look ahead to week 2. Robert, it's going to be back in the swing of things.
Yeah.
I will talk to you in 7 days. I will see you in 7 days. I'm sure we'll talk before then. We better, or else, I don't know, our relationship is fractured. But looking forward to it, my friend. I will see you in 7 days.
See you, everybody.